All right, what's going on, people? I decided to call it "Is Woke Imperialism the Future?" Because we see, of course, I'm going to review the footage that I cut from Vosh's stream. We're going to talk about that in more depth. Number one, and then number two, we're going to use some articles here about how the CIA, supports transgenderism, and a CIA officer explains, "Coming out as a transgender made me a more effective CIA officer." And this was March 20th, 2017. And the CIA celebrates Pride Month, which I know people are going to say, oh, and even people like Jason Unruh have said things like this, but ultimately they're kind of fickle, to say the least, about what they would what they really feel about transgenderism and everything else. So let's go ahead and cut into it here. Let's go ahead and just cut through the Fei Hua. Let's get into it. We're gonna go. Sorry, I did this shit again. I do it every time. All right, there we go. Okay, let's start with none other than Jason Unruh's video. Let's go ahead and start with that. Yeah, just got back from I'm gonna walk a few seconds before I went live. Glad I did. Oh yeah, it's all good. It's a good thing for you to take a walk, man. I took a walk yesterday, and if it wasn't, if we weren't having these monsoons going on where I'm at, I would be going on a walk too. I did take one yesterday though, so that's something anyway. But I do need to do some more walking, do some more exercising. So let's get into it, man. So this is Jason Unruh's video first. Let's start with that. This isn't necessarily woke imperialism, but it's definitely it definitely explains a bit more of Jason Unruh's anti-China position.
This is a video that I have been waiting so long.
Well, did he turn his head just so we could see the red stripes that he puts in his hair? Did he turn just to do that? Did he did he do it just for that? I mean, the thing, okay, there's that. Number two, why are you overexposed, bro? It's like there was a time it's like when you looked halfway decent in your videos, but it's like, man, now you overexposed and everything. Come on, man. Even I know that. Go ahead. That's just some nitpicky stuff. Go ahead.
To make. It is with regards to Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge, and the Cambodian genocide. Now, as you know, anti-communists like to blame us for that whole situation when that wasn't us. Allow me to go into more detail. Kangakuk Av, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, was the jailer at the most dastardly Phnom Penh prison.
Dastardly? That's the word you're gonna go for, or is that what it? Really? Okay. I mean, the writer of that article just said dastardly. Okay, go ahead.
School sling and personally oversaw the murder of hundreds.
He's overexposed, so he can't get more white privilege.
And women in numbers that they say are uncountable. This is all part of the Khmer Rouge. Now, the Cambodian genocide lasted from about 1975 to 1979, and it alleged that it killed up to 2 million people. Personally, I am skeptical of that big number because there isn't really any solid evidence to support that large number. Nonetheless,
is Jason Unruh a Holocaust denier? Is Jason Unruh a Holocaust denier? They didn't kill that many people. Is Jason Unruh a Holocaust denier? That's interesting. Exactly. An anti-glasses gang. He doesn't like anti-glasses gang. Yeah. This is. Go ahead, bro.
There still very clearly was a genocide. Now, after this started taking place, Cambodia was invaded by Vietnam, socialist Vietnam. And eventually, who shut down the genocide? It was the socialist country.
Is he going to talk about China coming in 1979, partly because of third worldism and the theory that they should defend Cambodia over Vietnam? Also, are you going, is he going to talk about any of that? No, he's not going to mention a word of it. All he says is just basically, oh, well, Pol Pot asked for support after Mao's death, so that's all that matters. It's just China revisionist. That's all it is. Mud China is revisionist when I want to pee my pants.
On Christmas Day in 1978, Vietnam invaded Cambodia and put an end to the murderous Khmer Rouge.
1979. Yeah,
regime.
Exactly.
Now, do you remember the footage from the trial that went on about these people who carried out this genocide? Some of the very top leaders and the testimony that they gave at their trials.
I just want to notice his source is an RT article, an op-ed. Okay. An op-ed is your source for this. Like I said, it's a very difficult thing. It is a very difficult thing because even with, I do want to mention this too, because obviously the gray zone, which was mentioned, of course, by Dylan Burns, who we're going to see in the next video. Ben Norton has, of course, said, oh, the Khmer Rouge was controlled by the United States, blah, 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 blah. They got support. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that. What I will say is, of course, is that the gray zone also gives tepid support to China. So there's kind of a mix there, isn't there? Between, well, we have to support China because, we want to dab on the U.S., but we don't want to dab on this country. So it's just, it's very messy, isn't it? Go ahead.
Probably don't, because the mainstream media didn't bother to report it. Because if they had, they would have known all the times the US, Britain, and the CIA were mentioned as allies of the Khmer Rouge. Now, it's interesting to note that Khmer Rouge often gets blamed on communism, even though they literally worked for the United States and the UK.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. I want to see if people got mad at his comment. Okay, no more libs, please. My man, no more libs, please, of course. Big member of Rice Gang. I don't know if he may show up, he may not, but we'll see. Reminder that the U.S. didn't put the Khmer Rouge in the power. The support came during and after the Vietnamese invasion. China also supported Pol Pot. That's true. And yet, nothing is said. He doesn't say anything about them. But yeah, that's just how he is.
More evidence of which I will be presenting in this video, and the fact that Pol Pot didn't call himself a Maoist until Mao was dead and was looking for political support.
This is the only time he ever mentions China in any sort of way, but he's being very, very slick with his stuff. Why do you call this? I've had this conversation. Well, I've had this conversation with myself before, but it's like, why would you call yourself a Maoist when, okay, the only thing you rely on is Mao's theory. You hate what he did in real life. This is the whole thing. If you ask legitimate Maoists why they call themselves Maoists, they'll be like, well, we like what we like what Mao wrote, but you don't like Mao Zedong thought. It's not that. That's not Maoism. You don't even like Gonzalo to a point, So ultimately, all you give a shit about are his writings. You don't. This is the box that you've painted yourself into. You only care about what he wrote about. You can't stand what he did in reality. This is the problem. This is the cope that happens, with a lot of these types of political folks. You can't stand what happened in real life. And you just like, well, he said some good things in these books, so I'm going to hold on to those. It's just, motherfucker. Yeah. I got to sleep soon, so I'll just say this. The U.S. dropped 500,000 tons of bombs on Kampuchea. That's your Cambodian genocide. There you go. Yep. There you go. But yep, you have a good night's sleep, though. No more lives. It happens. So, but yeah, definitely.
So try to keep that in mind when you're a reactionary and you start spewing hate in the comments. The fact that the Britain and the United States recognized the Khmer Rouge government long after they had.
And I noticed this in my comment too. I'm just going to point out myself here. So is this just China revisionist? Since the PLA did go to war with Vietnam, like I say, part of the reason why China went to war with Vietnam as well is because they feared for their own borders, and they said, hey, yeah, what's going on down there? Ni gai shen ma, ni gai shen ma, Vietnam. I don't know how they'd say Vietnam in Chinese offhand or in Mandarin, but still, it's like, hey, ni gai shen ma, we're going down there. Yeah. I mean, Jason is so blinded by anti-China bias, it's unbelievable. Why call yourself a Maoist if you have no faith in the Filipino Maoists? Which is true. He has done a video about it. Gaddafi wasn't a socialist either. It doesn't matter. Hell, Gaddafi supported the Nation of Islam. So it's like, why would you bother to do that? No more live sleep. Comment about bombs is gone. Curse you, YouTube. Oh, that's foul. You know what? I'll go ahead and let me see here. I'll put it up here. If the chat took it away, there you go. I'll leave it up there for a moment. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that up there just for a minute. But yeah, that way y'all can see it, as it didn't get deleted for me yet. But yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, like I say, man, I don't get this.
Already
I don't
been
get it.
Overthrown by Vietnam is very telling. So once the crimes were already known,
it's like, once again, I mean, with people like Jason Unruh, I get the sense that he's a very prickly pear, and that he doesn't want to get along with a lot of people. He doesn't want to talk with a whole lot of people. And, when he does debate people, he gets dabbed on by, Eric Stryker. He gets dabbed on by him, and ultimately comes up with sort of a liberal sort of argument, because it's just, this is how retarded Western leftists are. But yeah, go ahead.
And the crimes were made public, and they had been forced out of power. The United States and the UK continued to recognize them as the legitimate government of Cambodia and not the one installed by the Vietnamese army. The one that committed all those crimes that caused the invasion to begin with, which even Noam Chomsky, in his book Understanding Power, actually acknowledges that it's
we don't care. I don't care about Noam Chomsky. I don't care. Noam Chomsky also says that I should support Biden because Trump is going to bring in Nazism. So I don't give a shit about dumb crap like that. I'll tell you that right now.
First and only time someone actually has done a humanitarian military intervention, and with good reason.
I will notice this with Jason Unruh. He hasn't been getting as many spots, or if any, as far as I can think of, with Press TV, Iranian TV. So I think that's why he's doing more videos, because maybe he got booted off Press TV. I have a feeling that maybe his contract ran out and they didn't want to bring him back or something else. I have a feeling that's what happened. Because you notice he's been doing all these videos. And he's got to have somewhere to stand ideologically. And instead of just, just being, I support Iran or something like that, now you have to just say, well, anti-China. And now you have to choose these very obscure, the obscure Jewish Bundists and these other groups in Arizona. You have to stand with them. These obscure people, these obscure groups that hardly anybody knows. You are one of the only ones who are really promoting. You've got to align yourself with them. It doesn't, you see what I'm saying? It doesn't make much sense to me, but yeah. Let me see here. Yeah. Why is Unruh suddenly bringing Chomsky up all of a sudden? Exactly. There's a lot of, like I say, go ahead.
Now, it was interesting that Thatcher and Reagan insisted Pol Pot's ambassador, because he wasn't actually the leader of the country anymore, in exile was secretly given millions of dollars by the U.S. government. Aid which continued for almost over a decade after he had been overthrown and living in exile in Thailand, a U.S. ally. And also one of the countries. One regiment of Royal Thai soldiers participated in the Vietnam War. That's something a lot of people do tend to forget.
Yeah, the South Korean army was involved with the Vietnam War as well, and they were some of the most brutal soldiers towards the Vietnamese. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Okay, are we just is this just random fact day? Like, oh well, a one regiment of the Thai army. Well, why don't you bring up this? Just don't get it. Are we bringing up random shit now? It's just, I know it speaks to a larger point, but it's like, what does that mean in any sort of context? Holy shit! I mean, the Thai army fought against Vietnam too. Yeah, if you really study Asia, Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Filipinos, everybody else, they hate each other. They do. They hate each other. Even I know this. It's like they do. They will trade with each other, but there are long, centuries old rivalries between each other. So I don't really get this whole type of thing. Oh, the Thai fought with them too. No, just shut up, loser. All right, go ahead.
So while they were living there, receiving
Jason
millions
says
of dollars
he's anti-whiteness
from the
now.
U.S.,
He's starting to
particularly
degenerate.
the
Yeah.
CIA and the UK.
Is he going to bring up Laurie Torn next? He may.
All of
yeah,
this
he may.
was going on.
They're
but
all
still,
they are anti-colonials.
the
Very
fact that the
bipolar,
government was the whole Khmer Rouge backed by the
Comrade
United
Clydestream
States
now.
and the UK
Have a great one.
received CIA money, somehow it's still our fault. Now, the point of this video was to point out how one of the big, architects, Kyung Guk Av, who was the head of a particular prison, has finally died, and he was in his the 90s. But I think there's even a more important story here is for us to stop taking the blame for what the United States and the UK actually did and finally shut these people up once and for all. Now, Jane's Defense Weekly and the Daily Telegraph revealed as late as 1989 that
it's funny to me how he doesn't get any Vietnamese sources translated into English. He doesn't get any Vietnamese sources. It's all Western. Jane's Military, Daily Telegraph, all this sort. I have to question things like that when you bring up these sorts of sources. It's just, once again, I mean, Jason just wants a virtue signal, and of course it worked to a point, because of course, it's like, thank you, Jason, for reminding us that Pol Pot wasn't a socialist, communist, or a Marxist. And of course they say, fuck Pol Pot. It's just ridiculous. Go ahead. And I know I'm petty for saying it that way, but so what? Go ahead.
Decade after the world knew about the killing fields, Britain's SAS was still helping to train Pol Pot's jungle army and exile. That's right, as the genocide was going on and the whole world knew about it, the Special Air Service was still training Pol Pot's forces. Think about that. Remember that. This whole almost unbelievable episode, one of the worst actual real crimes against humanity, went basically.
Now hold on. Remember what Jason said at the beginning. He says, I don't think it was 2 million people though. Remember that? So he, under the rules that we exist in, for anyone that denies the amount of people that died, I hate to sound like a whip, but the amount of people that died, in the concentration camps in Poland, if anyone questions that number, then you're a denialist. Then you are a Holocaust denialist. So Jason Unruh is doing a Holocaust denialism. So yeah, the thing is that Jason Unruh can try to hold on to some sort of morals as much as he wants to, and yet he will constantly contradict himself, because that's what Westerners do. We contradict ourselves constantly. But yeah, this is cringe.
Because all of these forces were working.
I hate Pride Tunes. Tried to pull me epically. Oh yeah.
UK. They were imperialist puppets. And we to this day still get the blame for what they did.
Yep. I guess see, this is what I hate about people like Jason Unruh. Apparently China was only good up until 1976. After 1976, it was all bad. Everything was bad. Everything was evil, because Deng Xiaoping took over. And I know there are plenty of other things that went on behind the scenes. The people that were true Maoists didn't take charge, and Gang of Four and all that. Look, I get it, but still, that's their internal shit that happened. But the thing is that basically, this is the. Go ahead, idiot. Okay.
Thank you for watching. If you like,
no, I'm not going to give you money. No, screw you. Okay. And these are from the other two videos. Okay, there we go. Just absolute feiwa, isn't it? Absolute feiwa. So let's get into the next one. This is just me showing the clips of Vosh talking with this Dylan Burns, who turns out is a Twitch streamer. I think I may have seen one or two of his streams before, but it's absolutely supporting some woke imperialism. This is what this is. Go ahead.
Willing to sell their freedom to the government if they know that black folk will get.
Let me go back there. Okay.
Talking the popular vote right now.
I have never had less faith in the American electorate. Please ask me again.
So he was saying basically that Dylan Burns, where I clipped it before, was basically saying is that, what if Trump won by 80% of the vote and something like that? And basically then Vosh decides to virtue signal. So yeah, sorry, I thought I heard something else. Go ahead.
And after November, and I will give you my answer then. I'm deferring it.
Yeah, anyone who calls China social imperialist ignores the U.S. exporting gay marriage to third world countries is cringe. Yep, exactly. Working class needs militias to protect and serve our communities. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
But you can see how
I can see. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, I can understand how, given all of that, it's entirely possible. By the way, I feel like sometimes the most passionate advocates for human liberty are people who have not yet tasted it. There are people here in America who are willing to sell their freedom to the government.
Literal neocon type stuff here. This is literal neocon type stuff. This is literally Gusano type stuff here. Or it's just like, oh, the people that haven't tasted freedom really are the ones that want liberty. This is literally fetishism of people that, have lived under, some authoritarian rule. This is okay. Go ahead, idiot.
If they know that black folk will get fucked over twice as hard for it.
And
but
greetings,
there are a lot of
Corey.
people. You got students, everyone out there in Hong Kong fighting against what they know is going to happen to them. People in China, people in autocratic regimes all over the world, who I think have sometimes, maybe not for the whole population, but sometimes a much greater appreciation for how bad things can get. And I think under those circumstances, yeah, they'd have a reason to be angry.
Yeah.
Oh boy. You mean with Hong Kong having to play the same rules as mainland China? Oh my goodness. You mean the idea that, anyone that commits a crime can be can be brought back to mainland China? Oh my goodness. That's just so crazy, isn't it? China is still, Hong Kong is still independent. Oh, wait a minute. No, they didn't, because the British gave it back to China in 1997. But of course, nobody talks about that. Nobody cares about it. Of course, people like, all these leftists, they absolutely hate China apart from gray zone. And even then, they're kind of mixed, in general. And they just want to dab on the United States. But it's just utterly ridiculous. Go ahead.
I would say, from looking at
shout out to the brave
my thing is,
exactly
when it comes to protest movements, is there's
what's the connection between U.S. exporting gay marriage and China's social imperialism? Well, the thing is that no, what he's saying, Septo Mantis, is the idea that the U.S., and I'm going to bring this up in the next couple of articles here, is, for example, a U.S. officer explains how coming out as a transgender made me a more effective CIA officer. So they're literally having CIA agents that support, that obviously have this agenda, and they're pushing it around the world. This is the new woke imperialism. That's what I'm saying. Is that, we'll allow all this, but yeah, you're going to have your gay pride parades and all this stuff. Instead of with China, in general, who may or may not go down that road. Who knows at this point, but in general, are, bringing more stability to the world, arguably. But yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot of it seems to, when it comes to the political spectrum, that everybody's a hypocrite when it comes to supporting protest movements. I'm a conservative. I've loved the Hong Kong protest.
You're a conservative. Why would you call yourself a conservative? Go ahead.
Protesters. Oh, but these American BLM rioters, they're ridiculous, right? Or you'll have somebody who's like, well, yeah, I support the BLM protests. They're the best, but those Hong Kong CIA shills need to get down and kiss the boot.
Yeah,
And it's
the real enlightened position is not liking the Hong Kong protests because they're CIA, and also not liking BLM because it's CIA. That's the
Yeah, well, I don't like either one. You're right. I don't necessarily think it's CIA. You know, this is a good segue here. I'm gonna go ahead and I see that enlightened mantis is in the chat. So or skeptical mantis. Sorry, I didn't mean to be cute. I'm just gonna read briefly here. This is from Willamette Week. This is talking about new video appears to show Michael Reinhold hiding in an alcove as Danielson walks by, then pursuing him. Okay. So basically, New York Times first reported this. It's a 19-page affidavit. Lays out the Portland Police Bureau's probable cause for Reinhold's arrest. It includes information from a series of sometimes conflicting witness interviews about the circumstances of Danielson's killing, which happened about 8:45 p.m. on August 29th. So this came out 4 days ago. This came out on September the 4th. So we'll get into it. Yeah. It includes information from a series of sometimes conflicting witness interviews about the circumstances of Danielson's killing, which happened about 8:45 p.m. on August 29th in the intersection of Southwest 3rd Avenue and Alder Street. Here are 3 pieces of information in the arrest warrant affidavit that shed new light on the killing. In an interview, shortly... Yes? Okay, let's continue on. All right. So we talked about this already, the Vice News video. Shot in self-defense. Had I stepped in before, he would have maced or stabbed me, Reinhold told Vice. But in the 19-page affidavit, there's no mention of a knife found on or near Danielson. The warrant does say that when a medic provided medical treatment to Danielson, there was an expendable metal baton found near him, along with a can of bear attack deterrent that appeared to have been hit by a bullet. The medic also discovered a loaded Glock 17 pistol still holstered and not fired at Danielson's waist, along with 3 extra magazines in the pockets of his cargo shorts. After the fatal shooting in Clackamas County, a Clackamas County sheriff's deputy told a Portland detective that, during a criminal investigation of Reinhold's son earlier in August, she'd asked to look through the younger man's phone. He compiled an August 7th text message to the younger Reinhold from somebody identified in his contacts as Dad, presumably Reinhold, made an unusual request. Sell me the gun for a quarter pound of weed and $100. I'm getting tired of this shit, and I need a piece now. Portland police arrested Reinhold on July 5th at a protest and seized a loaded gun from him. After Danielson's death, they found part of a .380 Winchester shell casing but never located the gun in a subsequent search of Reinhold's home. The Oregonian early reported on a video taken by a Facebook live streamer named Justin Dunlap. Dunlap's video captured much of the interaction between Reinhold and Danielson. But what's new in the arrest warrant affidavit are video and images from a previously unreported surveillance camera located at a nearby headquarters on Moda Health at 601 Southwest 2nd Avenue. The video, shot from a different angle and from a higher vantage point than Dunlap's street-level perspective, provides what appears to be a shot of Reinhold lying in wait for Danielson and his friend Chandler Pappas. Lead Detective Rico Beniga described in an arrest warrant affidavit what the video shows. Shortly before 8:45, Reinhold turns into the garbage entry and reaches towards his left front waist area. Beniga writes, Reinhold conceals himself, waits and watches as Danielson, Pappas continue walking by. Pappas and Danielson walk south on 3rd Avenue where they do not appear to interact or communicate with anyone. Danielson appears to be holding a can in his left hand and what appears to be an expendable baton in his right hand. After Danielson and Pappas walk by, Reinhold begins to emerge from a garage, while still reaching toward the pocket or pouch on his waistband. Reinhold and an unidentified associate then follow Pappas and Danielson as they cross 3rd westbound, Beniga writes. The shooting occurred shortly thereafter and is not captured on the surveillance video. So there you go, folks. Now, you take that with a grain of salt. Now, let's go ahead and be fair here. Let's talk about the Hong Kong protests here. So let's go ahead and bring up some images here. Let's go ahead and use this here. Some Hong Kong protest footage. Let's go ahead and see here. Hong Kong protest footage. Man on fire. So this is, okay, so this was from last year. I don't know if CNN will flag me or not. They probably will, but let's go ahead and see here if I can show the video. Okay. Let's go ahead and show this right quick here. It's going to take a minute. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Combat on the streets of Hong Kong. Police versus protesters. A dangerous, almost daily struggle that sometimes ends like this. 3 live rounds fired by a traffic officer. A 21-year-old protester hit in the torso. This 20-year-old university student saw it happen.
I was sitting there, then suddenly 2 cops ran out and...
Don't worry, I'll try to be fair.
Then none of the protest thing, it is attacking those
Yeah,
cops.
Xiao Fei Hua.
Start a fire of their own. You can easily spot the frontliners dressed in black, wearing full face masks in defiance of Hong Kong law. This no longer feels like a fight for democracy. This feels like a fight against the government, the police, the very institutions now struggling to maintain public order, a public with many people who no longer trust their government. By the time Hong Kong police race back to the scene, the damage is done. Tear gas do little to stall. It's like a game of riding his motorbike into investigating this
Oh,
video
here we go.
showing a man apparently being doused with flammable liquid and set on fire. Just before, he was shouting, "You are all not Chinese?" What we don't see on the
So there we go. So, I mean, you take that with a grain of salt, but still, what is the connection? Yeah. Shout out to the brave Mujahideen. Yeah. You know you are U.S. colony when you decide gay marriage is important. Yeah. Not so. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even I had to say, Mugabe was correct on that. And Mugabe, of course, was also Catholic. So, yeah. But yeah. It's just interesting to point that type of stuff out, isn't it? Okay. Let's continue watching a little bit of Vosh here, and then we'll cut to reading a couple articles, and then I will read at least the first chapter of the Green Book by Muammar Gaddafi. So, yeah. We will get there, yeah. Where's Iban when you need him? Exactly. Go ahead.
Real above it all take.
Yeah, my position has always been I think I do believe in internationalism when it comes to this extent. I believe we should.
He's a conservative, but he supports internationalism. Huh? Conservatives support international trade, but not internationalism. So those are two different things, but yeah.
Support the protests in Chile, there's protests in Iraq, the protests in Haiti, there's
protest, and once again, this kind of tripped me up when I heard this the first time. So you support the protests in Iraq. So you support Hataib Hezbollah? I don't think you do you? How can you support Hataib Hezbollah in one section of the world, and yet you also support Lukashenko? To think that all protests are the same thing, and they'll say, "Well, I support protests across the world," then you're a fucking idiot. Go ahead.
The protests in Sudan when it came to the blue movement in Sudan. Of course, the protests in Hong Kong, the protests in America. We should support the protests in Belarus. I don't think an imaginary line on a map dictates someone's humanity, and we need to support them across the board.
Give me a break.
But it seems that when it comes to these conflicts, when it comes to protests around the world, like these Belarusian protests, it really still you'll always find someone who will shill for the authoritarian regime. In this case, I would say it was Ben Norton from the gray zone, who was probably the biggest shill for Lukashenko, who right when the protest started, he just called it another color revolution by the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Is there any evidence to support the idea that it is just another color revolution by the United States?
Yep.
I would say
it
would be difficult to prove it. I have seen no evidence up to this point that there's been any CIA ops or anything like that. I would say the West are more supportive of the protest movement, but that's like the closest you could get to evidence of it. I would say that, and even if there was support for it, like the United States certainly supported the Hong Kong protesters, does that not make the demands of said protesters valid anyway, even if there was?
Do you think the term color revolution is ever used in good faith anymore?
Oh boy,
I understand
here
the
we
historic. Yeah. Front me there. I understand the historic. Okay, of course, America still engages in regime change.
This is the guy who would support the invasion of the DPRK and provide woke imperialism, and they would just say, "Well, it wasn't a CIA operation."
Of course, I mean, we literally just tried and failed to do it.
Underdog fascism
in
People
Venezuela.
Like that. People like
don't get me started on that operation.
Right, yeah. Right, well, it was a fucking comedy shit show, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Guaido at the club at 4 p.m. on his phone, like, you guys said you'd show up.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, you're right. That was hilarious with the Venezuela thing. Yeah. What I would say to that in contrast, though, would be what happened to Bolivia. No word on that. No word on that at all. You know, I love the contrast of let's talk about this one thing, but then we're going to ignore the other thing because reasons.
But I feel like when people say color revolution, it's almost like a dog whistle. Like they're indicating to me that they're just uniformly against any revolution that takes place within a country that isn't allied with the United States. You know.
I mean, when we usually
had
hear
bad
color revolution,
experiences.
when I hear color revolution, it's usually that anytime that it's a revolution that's against one of America's geopolitical foes, then it's a color revolution. America's doing it. America's behind everything, and these people are actually just America-backed orbals, and the real people of X country would never and stand beside them. But the thing with Lukashenko is, even like all the usual people, what ended up happening is they started protesting on the streets. They started, getting people out there.
Here.
But the response they have, Independence Square and his helicopter, tear gas. This is the biggest breath of democracy Belarus has felt since.
All right, you know what? I'm going to leave it there.
Ponytail.
There we go.
Okay.
Keep safe.
You kind of get the idea. All right, let's move on here. This is one from 2017 here. This is my case for woke imperialism. Coming out as a transgender made me a more effective CIA officer. Woo! An intelligence official explains how being honest with herself and her colleagues helped her to serve her country. I sat in a bunker, hoping the incoming rocket did not have my name on it. I was a young CIA officer. And basically, okay, we're going to skip to the chase here. Okay. I had heard a story about what happened to one CIA officer who had taken that step. Once upon a time, an officer with decades of experience lost it. Clearly the stress. One day, he decided he was now a woman. Hilarious, I know. And wanted everyone to believe him. Management didn't know what to do with the transsexual. CIA had only accepted gays. The officer left the agency. When I was a child, I knew that trans people existed, but I knew I couldn't possibly be one of them. I was going to make history, not be some freak on television. My self-discipline and self-hatred marched in lockstep. I bottled up my problem and tried to live up to the CIA's values, to put the mission before itself and go where others cannot. But CIA has other chiseled words. The truth shall set you free. How could I speak truth to power but not be honest with myself? Sinking into depression, I built a double life, living as a woman outside work and changing genders in Langley's unisex restrooms. Oh boy. My juggling act faltered at a staff meeting when a friend whispered that I had forgotten to remove my mascara. The trans community has a joke. What's the difference between a crossdresser and someone who changes genders? 2 years. Ha ha ha. Oh yeah, Milton Berle would have been a tranny probably. Yeah. The punchline ignores the trans people who never transition or find happiness outside the gender binary. But for me, my hour is Jenny. Lifted the terrible sadness. Sorry. Someone's mowing their lawn right before it rains. Okay. We'll just wait for a minute. Yeah, this article exactly. Oh, fuck. Yeah. He said also he would support forcing the North Sentinelese to assimilate in the modern world. Exactly. Exactly. This is, yeah. Talking about imperialism. There's a reason they have always been put against the wall. They have no conception of what to do after victory. Yeah. Speaking truth to power from within the CIA. Yeah. The truth shall set you free. This is ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Okay. If you find out you needed glasses and discovered that the world is filled with beauty and color that you thought was just a blur, why would you ever take them off? Is that kind of like a reference to them or the They Live? Is that kind of a reference where, you know, where you see the world for what, I mean, kind of a reverse They Live? I mean, that's kind of what it is. Okay. I finally reached a breaking point. I was failing at my job and found myself crying in the bathroom. I walked into my boss's office and closed the door. She later told me she was relieved when I told her. From the look on my face, she thought I had cancer. Much had changed in the years since the last transgender officer came out. When my boss gathered my coworkers to tell them that I was transitioning, one of the millennials remarked, "Good for her. Can we get back to work now?" Oh, that's so funny. Meanwhile, after stalling in the parking lot for an hour, I badged in to discover that my colleagues had bought me a gift card to a women's clothing store. Bruh. A friend deadpan, "Jenny, nobody liked you as a guy anyway." Oh, it's so funny. Oh, boy. The most terrifying day of my life turned out to be a non-event, but it was another step in pushing the agency out of the closet. For 40 years, the CIA had fired gay and lesbian officers for being themselves, an injustice and senseless waste of America's silent defenders. Silent defenders in heavy, heavy quotes there. By contrast, today's CIA embraced my transition. Colleagues shared stories of LGBT loved ones, and other transgender officers started to come out. Director John Brennan, this is a guy who used to be a communist, I think, for a short time. I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, or a socialist. Began wearing a rainbow lanyard, and a CIA booth stands at DC's annual Gay Pride Festival. Oh my gosh! You think that you know, the two are completely unconnected, right? Completely unconnected. That progress is long overdue. One study estimates that approximately 134,000 transgender veterans have served in our military, and over 15,000 currently serve in our armed forces. When I walk the roads of Arlington, I can't help but dwell on the closeted soldiers of past generations. Bruh, this is some, okay. Jenny Hall is not my real name. Jenny was our pet dachshund, and Virginia Hall was a one-legged OSS hero who ran spies under the nose of the Nazis. Overlooked by male colleagues, Gestapo called her the limping lady, the most dangerous of Allied spies. I relish the idea that I'm ISIS's nightmare, trans, gay, Jewish, CIA, and worst of all, female. Pain. Leftists can infiltrate CIA and push them to the left. Vosh someday. Exactly. Pain. That's all I can say. Pain. I'm just going to type it in the chat here just to make sure. But yeah, pain. I mean, this is 2017, folks. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When that one guy decided to come on here and debate, transgenderism is a way to make money. Period. The thing is, it was a relatively unknown, quiet thing as far as I know. 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and suddenly now, poof, comes out of the thing. You know. Why is that? Why is it suddenly that, you know, basically, this is another way for capitalism to make money? That's all it is. That's my view of transgenderism. It's just something else that capitalism squeezes value out of you. So if you decide to become transgender, you know, you have a meeting with a psychologist, right? and they make sure that you have all the proper, make sure that you're actually transgender and not just, some weirdo. And then what happens? Well, then, you continue to take HRT, most of which is, I assume, other than if you decide to look on Reddit and try to make it yourself, which there is literally a thread on Reddit where you can make your own HRT. That does exist. But anyway, so you take your HRT for however length of time. You take that HRT, and then you decide, well, now I want to, get my stuff cut off. So then you go to a surgeon who's probably specialized in doing male to female surgeries or female to male surgeries. That is their only job. That is how they make their money. So they rely on that. So it's going to be expensive as hell. I'll just put it. And so then you enter into this whole circle, basically. That's all I can say. Yeah. I'm starting to buy the CIA versus NSA Cold War theory. Exactly. Yeah. The same people that try to say nationalism is used to divide the proletariat will try to ruin your life if you don't. Yeah, exactly. Can't get enough. Yeah. And that's just, to me, that's the basic outline of it. The thing is, I know thou dost protest too much. I do realize that. That if I continue to talk about this, then people are going to say, oh, well, you must be. That's why I try not to talk about the T word or the T question, the TQ, because I think it's ridiculous. Like I say, it's going to continue to exist. But it's just going to be like any other human endeavor. It's going to be like any other human endeavor in the sense that they're going to break apart into various groups. They're going to say, oh, well, they've already done it. Oh, well, these TERFs don't like, transgender women, or SWERFs don't like this. And all this sort of thing. So it makes little sense to me once again, and you're just going to have a group of spurgs who are like, well, this is actually pure transgender ideology and this is cringe, bro. And it's just that's going to be the separation. It's just going to be continued bullshit that most people don't even care about or understand, and that has already existed. And of course, even Vosh has his troubles with the transgender community as well, as much as he claims to support them. So it doesn't get it doesn't deserve the attention it gets. It really doesn't. It really does not. But yeah, it has to be said, though. It has to be said. Once again, CIA agency. CIA celebrates Pride Month. Yep. And this Director Haspel, this 2018. So Director Haspel, this one that they say is so right-wing and so evil because she supports torture, this and that. It's like, waterboarding, whatnot. It's like, look, whatever, I don't get this whole type of thing where it's just like, oh, well, we it's okay to go into other countries, but torture is a whole other level of bullshit. It's just, give me a fucking break. A history of pride at CIA before 1995. Throughout the angle sought out senior champions and allies. Basically, they wanted to find a way so that they could co-opt it. That's basically all you need to know, I think, with this. The EO sparked the push, an executive order signed by President Bill Clinton. Oh, thank you. 12968. In 1996, the officers, 2 lesbians and a transgender woman. Oh, that sounds like a joke waiting to happen. Within the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology. Oh, boy. Stood up and banded together to try and create a working environment that was equitable to all employees, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Oh, boy. You boy. Okay. I can't read anymore of this Feihua. All right. It's just pain. That's all I can say. It's just pain. It's just cringe. Okay. Let's look at some information that will hopefully guide us a little bit better. We're going to go ahead and read through at least the first chapter. Let's see how long this is here. This is probably pretty damn long. Okay, I'm going to stop to the party in chapter 1 of the Green Book. I mean, all the philosophy underpinning it was literally Cold War psyop. All post-war philosophy was CIA funded. Yep, that's true. So let me see here. Yeah, I'll just read up through the party, which is just a couple pages. I'm going to strain my eyes a little bit here, but you know what? I'm here to read it to you. Chapter 1. The solution of the problem of democracy, the authority of the people. So this is the Green Book. We're getting into it. We're doing it. I know I said I was going to do it today. I'm doing it today. Don't worry. It's getting done. Okay. The instrument of government is the prime political system, political problem confronting human communities. The problem of the instrument of government entails the question of the following kind. What form should the exercise of authority have? The USSR, they need to create new freedoms that the USSR was denying their people. Yep, exactly. Once again, and this goes back to Lenin as well. I was going to bring this up, but yeah. Where Lenin, of course, supported homosexuality and all this sort of thing and overturned the old Tsarist law, and then Stalin reinstated it, But it has to be said, though, of course, that famous letter. I'm going to repeat this again. That famous letter of the gay member of the Communist Party in Britain. I don't know if it's the same CPGB, but anyway. And he wrote a letter, oh, homosexuality has been studied, comrade, this and that, and wrote to Stalin. And what did Stalin say? He said, a degenerate. That's what he said. He said, a degenerate. And of course, what happened with that guy? Well, that guy later renounced his Communist Party membership, became a journalist, and spent a lot of his life in Turkey. So it goes to show once again that, the fact is that if you call yourself a communist and you claim to have LGBTQ allies, the fact is that you don't have allies. You have turncoats. Because the thing is, if you have these LGBTQ allies, if the Democrats give any sort of little bonus, little scrap to the LGBTQ movement, then they'll go over the Democrats. Simple as that. And they would rather vote for a Democrat than continue on the revolution. Period. End of story. Realize that. So you don't have a comrade. You have a turncoat if you have LGBTQ allies and claim to have comrades like that. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah, that's my view. But yeah, I guess I'm just a bit of a revisionist. So what? All right. The instrument of government is the prime political problem confronting human communities. The problem of the instrument of government entails questions of the following kind. What form should the exercise of authority assume? How ought societies to organize themselves politically in the modern world? Even conflict within the family is often the result of a failure to resolve this problem of authority. It has clearly become more serious with the emergence of modern societies. People today face this persistent question in new and pressing ways. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this right quick here. Pressing ways. Okay, sorry. And let me go ahead and change this right here. I'll go ahead and put this on. There we go. And we'll go ahead and take this off. There we go. That's better. All right. Hey, guys, I have like 3 minutes to watch until I need to do something. Okay, cool. Well, I'm reading the Green Book, so enjoy for about 3 minutes of me reading the Green Book. I'll try to continue on here. Okay. Communities exposed to the risk of uncertainty and suffer the grave consequences of wrong answers, yet none has succeeded in answering it conclusively and democratically. The Green Book presents the ultimate solution to the problem of the proper instrument of government. All political systems in the world today are a product of the struggle for power between alternative instruments of government. The struggle may be peaceful or armed, as is evidenced among classes, sects, tribes, parties, or individuals. The outcome is always the victor of a particular governing structure, be it that of an individual, group, party, or class, and the defeat of the people, the defeat of genuine democracy. Political struggle that results in the victory of a candidate with, for example, 51% of the votes, leads to a dictatorial governing body in the guise of a false democracy, since 49% of the electorate is ruled by an instrument of government that they did not vote for, but which has been imposed upon them. That's true. Such is dictatorship. Besides, this political conflict may produce a governing body that represents only a minority. For when votes are distributed among several candidates, though one polls more than any other, the sum of the votes received by those who receive fewer votes might well constitute an overwhelming majority. However, the candidate with fewer votes wins, and his success is regarded as legitimate and democratic. In actual fact, dictatorship is established under the cover of false democracy. This is the reality of the political systems prevailing in the world today. They are dictatorial systems. It is evident that they falsify genuine democracy. Parliaments are the backbone of the conventional democracy prevailing in the world today. Parliament is a misrepresentation of the people, and parliamentary systems are a false solution to the problem of democracy. A parliament is originally founded to represent the people. But this in itself is undemocratic, as democracy means authority of the people, and not an authority acting on their behalf. The mere existence of a parliament means the absence of the people. True democracy exists only through the direct participation of the people and not through the activity of the representatives. Parliaments have been a legal barrier between the people and the exercise of authority, excluding the masses from meaningful politics and monopolizing sovereignty in their place. People are left with only a facade of democracy, manifested in long queues to cast their election ballots. To lay bare the character of parliaments, one has to examine their origin. They are either elected from constituencies, a party, or a coalition of parties, or they are appointed. But all of these procedures are undemocratic. For dividing the population into constituencies means that one member of parliament represents thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people, depending on the size of the population. It also means that a member keeps few popular organizational links with the electors, since he, like other members, is considered a representative of the whole people. At least they would have spared him the knife throwing. Yeah, the problem with strongmen is succession. How do you find a worthy man to pass the reins of power to? That's true. That is true, false gods. Hundreds of thousands of millions of people. It also means that a member keeps few popular organizational links with the electors, since he, like other members, is considered a representative of the whole people. This is what the prevailing traditional democracy requires. The masses are completely isolated from the representative, and he, in turn, is totally removed from them. Immediately after winning the electors' votes, the representative takes over the people's sovereignty and acts on their behalf. The prevailing traditional democracy endows the member of parliament with a sacredness and immunity which are denied to the rest of the people. Parliaments, therefore, have become a means of plundering and usurping the authority of the people. It has thus become the right of the people to struggle through popular revolution to destroy such instruments, the so-called parliamentary assemblies, which usurp democracy and sovereignty, and which stifle the will of the people. The masses have the right to proclaim reverberantly the new principle: no representation in lieu of the people. If parliament is formed from one party as a result of its winning an election, it becomes a parliament of the winning party, not of the people. It represents the party and not the people. And the executive power of the parliament becomes that of the victorious party and not of the people. The same is true of the parliament of proportional representation, in which each party holds a number of seats proportional to their success in the popular vote. The members of the parliament represent their respective parties and not the people. And the power established by such a coalition is the power of the combined parties and not that of the people. It represents the party and not the people. And the executive power of the parliament becomes that of the victorious party and not of the people. The same is true of the parliament of proportional representation, in which each party holds a number of seats proportional to their successes in the popular vote. The members of the parliament represent their collective parties and not the people. And the power established by such a coalition is the power of the combined parties and not that of the people. Under such systems, the people are the victims whose votes are vied for by exploitative competing factions who dupe the people into political circuses. Yep, this is like America today. That are outwardly noisy and frantic, but inwardly powerless and irrelevant. Yep, absolutely. America to a T. Alternatively, the people are seduced into standing in long, apathetic, silent queues to cast their ballots in the same way that they throw waste paper into dustbins. This is the traditional democracy prevalent in the whole world. whether it is represented by a one-party, two-party, multi-party, or non-party system. Thus, it is clear that representation is a fraud. Moreover, since the system of elected parliaments is based on propaganda to win votes, it is a demagogic system in the real sense of the word. Votes can be bought and falsified. Poor people are unable to compete in the election campaigns, and the result is that only the rich get elected. Assemblies constituted by appointment or hereditary succession do not fall under any form of democracy. Philosophers, thinkers, and writers are advocated the theory of representative parliaments at a time when peoples were unconsciously herded like sheep by kings, sultans, and conquerors. The ultimate aspiration of the people of those times was to have someone to represent them before such rulers. When even this aspiration was rejected, people waged bitter and protracted struggle to attain this goal. After the successful establishment of the age of the republics and the beginning of the era of the masses, it is unthinkable that democracy should even mean the electing of only a few representatives to act on behalf of the great masses. This is an obsolete structure. Authority must be in the hands of all the people. The most tyrannical dictatorships the world has known have existed under the aegis of parliaments. Yeah. Once again, I can agree with your argument between false gods and Union Army Ball. That's very true. Okay. Let me see how long this bit of the party goes. Okay. This goes for a little bit longer. Okay, we'll read the party and then we'll go ahead and call it good. The party is a contemporary form of dictatorship. It is a modern instrument of dictatorial government. The party is the rule of a part of over the whole. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of getting sleepy again, even though I just had a nap. Oh, but man, I think I'll call it there. Okay, we're going to stop there at the party, and we will read some more next stream, and we'll continue on. We need a red state Augustus. Even blue state Augustus would be preferable at this point, I think. We need something. I don't know what. We need something. We need something. That's the problem. What if it was the duty of the strong man to choose and groom a successor? Yeah, exactly. That is true. It would be unfortunate. Oh, I mean, that would be probably better. But yeah. I think I've said my piece on that one, though. That went for about an hour. Not too bad. Not too painful, I think. So I did elaborate on some things I think are important to talk about. And I will put a marker at the bottom, or I put a marker in a pinned comment to say when you can actually start, when I start reading the Green Book. That way, you know, those who want to hear me read the Green Book, I will go ahead and link that. That way y'all can do that. I think, well, that, of course, yeah, no problem. I gave it a start anyway, so we will continue on from there. So I will thank everyone, as I always try to do. I always try to give props to my audience, because without y'all, I would be nothing. I think that's very true. Have a good one, Union Army Ball. False Gods, Will DeMarco. I know that Captain Fullsack, Temujin, Giller Pol Pot, sorry. Fiedo Angela Requiem, Ole. Of course, No More Lives 1975 was in here as well. Who else? Giller Pol Pot, Skeptical Manus. We have our disagreements, but overall, I can agree with you for the most part. You know, you're in here. We have our disagreements, but it's okay. It's okay. Jimmy Whisper. Will DeMarco. I said that already. Yeah, No More Lives 1975 was in here for a little bit. Ole. Want to make sure. I think that's everybody, though. So I will just say adieu to everyone. Yep. Fist up. You know, let me go ahead and put a fist in the chat as well. I'll go ahead and do that. I always act like this is I act like this is someone else's chat, not my own. I'll go ahead and put clapping, and then I'll go ahead and put a fist as well. I'll go ahead and use let me see here. I got a fist here somewhere, don't I? Or not. Okay, damn it. All right. It's here somewhere. Oh, here it is, down here. Okay. Well, then I will do. There we go. I'll put 2 fists, and then I'll do this. There we go. There we go. Now the brown fist. There we go. We'll put 3 brown fists. There we go. Yeah. There we go. We'll go ahead and drop that in. There we go. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, there's no ladies. I'm sorry. And with that, gentlemen that are watching, avenge Gaddafi. Exactly. Yep. Inshallah. I think we'll keep it there. I got to come up with another better ending. I got to come up with another outro or something like that. But I will play one of the other outros. So we're going to go ahead and find one of those right quick here. I guess I'll do this outro.
Fought single-handed against a desperate imperialist. Even in the face of food difficulty, the Korean people valued billets more than sweets. In the unprecedented hardships and trials, a complete whole is formed more firmly between the supreme commander and soldiers, between the army and people.